On that second pitch. Now you may get to a point in the count where you say, heck with the sacrifice. Trying to jump on a back.
Freight train going so fast. Please don't tell what train I'm on, so they don't know where I'm going. Freight train, coming around the bend. Freight train, gone again. One of these days, turn that old freight train around and bring it on back to my hometown. Like West Market. Freight train, rolling so fast. Freight train, rolling so fast. Please don't tell what train I'm on, so they don't know where I've gone. Get it? Well, there's one more place I'd love to be. One more place I'd love to see, so I can see those old Blue Ridge Mountains climb as she goes rolling by. Oh, freight train, going so fast. Freight train, going so fast. Please don't tell what train I'm on, so they don't know where I'm.
I opened up the door a little bit, and here I saw this little man sitting on a high stool in the background against the wall, and he had on his little flat brimmed hat like a little Spanish matador, and a garment around his shoulders to keep his little old 100-year-old bones warm, and on his lap was a brown bag of lunch. And when I saw that, I didn't want to intrude, but he just wildly beckoned me to come in. And I did, and he talked at me for almost an hour about all the people in his stable. And I just sat there listening. And I didn't have anything to say, but I didn't have to because he did all the talking. It was just marvelous. He was very small. He was built like a little hummingbird. And of course, I've been reading about his gallery and the importance in photography for a long time. So, but I was so impressionable. I just drank everything.
While you were buying, what would we say, contemporary 20th century art, were you simultaneously collecting the North Coast Indian art, or did you kind of do your collections one at a time?
The Indian collection happened as a result of sailing the Inside Passage, and that didn't start for 5 or 6 years after we started buying art. One Saturday afternoon, we had to hold over, and we couldn't tie up there in the bay at Alert Bay because it was unprotected, and we just bang all night.
Yeah.
And so we pulled up and went around Cormorant Island into a bunch of little islands. And then all of a sudden I looked up and I saw the forest and a sea of totems beyond. And I began to feel so uncomfortable because no one came out to say hello. And I said to Sidney, we should go. We're not welcome here. And he said to me, we're going to stay until we have friends here. There was a carver that lived in the village by the name of Smith. And he had a totem that they had just put up in the corner of their new house, of their new longhouse, that had been ordered by a yachtsman from Seattle who didn't pick it up, and the man stayed home from fishing for a whole season, so it was a dreadful thing. And so we bought it. That's now in the garden of the Indian Center out at Fort Lauderdale.
Daybreak Star. So, Ann, what was this early art scene like in Seattle when, you were with Sid and collecting art?
Zoda Zan was a dominant here, for she'd lived a number of years in Paris with a lot of American expatriates. And then after she established her gallery, she began to handle local artists like Horiuchi and Guy Anderson and
The Mystics, the Northwest Mystics.
All the Mystics.
So the gallery was in her own home?
It was her own home, yeah. And she'd have these nice openings at her house. And we started by, we had a Guy Anderson. What else did we have? Then
Mark Tobey?
Yeah, we had 2 Mark Tobeys. We had one big one that we never liked.
Well, did you meet a lot of these artists, and did you have like a personal contact with, say, Mark Tobey and
not very
Guy
much.
Anderson?
Once we went to we were invited to dinner at the Weinstein's house, and Mark Tobey was already there, and he saw us come up, and he had a big scowl on his face, and he ran into the dining room, and he counted the plates, and he went up to to Florence Weinstein. He said, "How dare you invite other people?"
You want to be the only guest?
He had his friend, and he was an imposition for her to ask anyone else. And then we sat down to dinner and gradually thawed out. And he got, toward the end of the dinner, he was extremely charming. I'll never forget that. What a chutzpah.
Sunday, May 16th, 1965. And on Monday, I heard this on the radio, that Sid's plane was missing with Wing Luke. And Kayla Du. It was tough. Real tough. And I think, you know, I was young and I thought that that couldn't happen to Sidney because he was too capable.
How has she changed since Sid's death? Or has she?
She hasn't changed. She's just a little freer. She missed him terribly. But she made up her mind she was going to enjoy the rest of her life, and nothing much has stood in the way of that.
He was a bigger-than-life persona, and I always lived in the shadow. So when he was not around, I could develop myself. So I recognized what happened. It was sort of peculiar for a while after I began to bloom. But I feel that if he's watching, that he feels okay about it.
One aspect of Anne that I think sets her apart from other arts patrons in the community, and probably even beyond this community, is her support for young artists and art that's always kind of new and coming up. She isn't locked into an art period. She's very experimental, very willing to take chances.
She was extremely generous to many of the younger artists, including myself, who at that time was a bit of an outcast because I was part of Dr. Fuller's world, or the museum world. And I was invited to her home to meet people, as were numbers of the other younger people. And it was very exciting to watch her move from a very almost traditional artistic background, or visual background, or background in the contemporary world to a very, very contemporary world.
She gave me lots of support by purchasing things, collecting things, and also telling other people about my gallery. And in those days, you got lots of mention of the gallery anyway, because there were only a handful of galleries in town. It's not like now there's 375. I mean, back then there were 4 or something, you know. So, but she spread the word around and introduced me to lots of people and invited me to this and that, and I met lots of important collectors through her.
There were an awful lot of artists who, after we closed, went on to show in more establishments.